Another summery day. Now, summery evening greets us at White Bear Lake. SEC Sports presents live coverage of high school boys soccer. We pay a visit to the Suburban East with White Bear Lake at 3-1-3, already improving on last year's mark against the Roseville Raiders. Roseville looking for a momentum builder tonight, and a victory would go a long way to achieving that. As we get ready for the pleasantries, it's time to say I'm Mike Peden. Glad to be with you once again live on SEC. As we get used to the new confines here at White Bear Lake, the high school moving to the North Campus this year, so we won't be going to Mariner Middle School, at least not in the near future, as the lineups are being introduced. That's typically how they do it, and then they'll go to the Star Spangled Banner, and then we'll be ready to play. White Bear Lake again at 3-1-3. Roseville 1-4-2.
Midfield number 14.
They play in a conference that historically has been one of the tougher ones over the years. The Lake Conference has been setting the standard. Let's take a look at the Suburban East Conference standings. You see not a lot of separation in the overall tally. Cretin-Durham Hall has the early lead in conference play. They are the only school that is unblemished. You see White Bear Lake, Woodbury, they both have draws. Stillwater off to a rough start in conference play. They're one of the top 10 teams in the preseason. Once again, the Suburban East, a gauntlet of talent, and we'll be seeing that on display over the course of this one. And that includes, on the White Bear Lake side, Ben Watson, 5 goals. Everyone else for White Bear Lake has 1 or less, but I spoke with their head coach before the game, Taylin Gittins, and she has high praise for the senior. Tabbed him as a player to watch, and really understanding what they're trying to do in what has been a carousel of coaching at White Bear Lake. This is their 3rd head coach over the last 3 years, but Taylin Gittins, no stranger to the program. She was an assistant coach last year. As White Bear Lake continues their introductions. On the Roseville side, a little trickier. There's Alex Rankin, but for Roseville, they've scored only 3 times this season. Or I should say, only 3 goals have been reported in the database. So Roseville has scored a few more goals, or I'm getting the White Bear Lake and Roseville schedules mixed up. And okay, we're not going to do a Star Spangled Banner. That's right. This is the back end of a doubleheader. The girls took care of business, the White Bear Lake girls, that is, against Roseville. But Roseville and Taylin Gittins is the head coach. We believe the first woman to serve as head coach of a boys program in Class 3A, and certainly a rarity across the state and in any profession. Not too many women take the reins of a boys or men's program, but Taylin Gittins, no stranger, and Roseville, a familiar name if you've been following the Raiders, Agapatos Papagapatos. He goes by AP to make it a little easier, but he has been a long-time fixture for the Raiders. Roseville's coming off a 4-0 win on Tuesday against Parker Cottage Grove. Those stats have not been entered into the database yet, so with Roseville, like I said, if you go by the stats now, you might think, oh, they're having a rough go of it with only 3 goals scored. They're coming off that big win over Park of Cottage Grove, which marked their first of the season. And their losses haven't been blowouts as we look at the flag. Again, no Star Spangled Banner because this is the back end of a doubleheader, but we have picture-perfect weather, a little warm for September. We're in a summery spell, 79 degrees, light winds out of the southeast, dew point around 60 degrees, and you feel that breeze coming in. That is one benefit of warm weather in September. the sun isn't barreling down on you like it would in June, July, or August. As we are waiting to get the clock fixed. They start play. The clock was set at 39:55. And the scoreboard operator just waited 5 seconds. Well, that's how I would do it if I were running the clock and had a slow start, but we are underway now, and that's the important thing. Again, no bad losses on the part of Roseville. They haven't lost by more than 2 goals in any of their games this season. White Bear Lake, their most recent game, was a scoreless draw with Mounds View, 3-1-3. Their lone loss came against Egan, a team that is already racking up wins at an impressive rate. 8-0-1 is where they stand, and they figure to be the team to beat out in Section 3. In Section 4, Two Rivers emerging as the front runners based on QRF. We are at the midpoint, roughly, of the soccer season as Roseville is working with the ball now. We'll get names and numbers as we make our way through. Roseville in Section 5. Maple Grove leads the pack, again based on QRF, and those numbers will come into play a little more as we get closer to the end of the season. But I can tell you, coming into this week, Minneapolis-Washburn still the #1 team. Maple Grove in second, Egan in third, Wayzata, the defending champions, in fourth. Stillwater still up there in eighth, but as we've seen already, they drew even with Woodbury. That Suburban East Conference is going to be a gauntlet for these teams. As we get our first corner kick. This will be number 19, Colby Peterson. One perk of the upgraded equipment, it's a lot easier to read those corner kicks on the far side. He'll play it short. Now tries to center up. It's batted away by Roseville. And a foul is called on White Bear Lake. That will award a free kick to Roseville. Still early though. Long way to go. Again, the girls won in a runaway. Normally we do double headers, but focused on just one. White Bear Lake. Some nice movement along the front line. It will be a goal kick, but not for lack of effort. Gavin Hoot had an opportunity there. White Bear Lake, the early aggressors in this one. But we are getting some new faces, perhaps, into the picture here for boys soccer. Egan, not necessarily a team that comes to mind. Washburn, they've been in the same section as Wayzata. You figure that will be another barn burner. And Maple Grove, who announced that they are joining the Lake Conference next year. Last year, these two teams drew even. White Bear Lake, as we said, just won one game in 2023. And in soccer and volleyball for the larger conferences, there's only one conference game. So this is your one opportunity. Of course, these two in different sections. So there isn't a lot on the line in regards to section seeding, but a team like White Bear Lake would love to get the win to avoid having a bad loss on the resume. Again, their lone loss came against Egan, a team that is now ranked third in the state and has yet to drop a game. Only one draw on their mark. But I suspect Roseville could hang tough if their past games are an indication. And speaking of tough, That was number 7, Mohamed El Noor. Roseville will get their first corner. Those set pieces always fun to watch. They play it short as well. Now they go for the far post. And instead, the cross is intercepted by Thomas Orsello, the senior keeper. Taylor Gittens mentioned the Watsons and Gio Pesco-Solido are going to be the players likely to make an impact. Of course, in this sport, that distinction can fall on almost anybody. I had a chance to speak with Taylor beforehand. Again, her position a rarity in this sport in general. We've seen a lot of men coach women's teams over the years, not the other way around. And she said, I just have fun with it. You almost have to. She has run into some refs who think she's a team manager and then loves to tease them playfully when she lets them know, no, I'm the coach, you're looking at her. Gittens is a teacher at White Bear Lake High School and had plenty of soccer experience, played at St. Scholastica, but never played a varsity game in high school. As Roseville's keeper fields that one before it can turn into a White Bear Lake threat. Thomas Warman, he's the keeper for Roseville. Roseville also has a couple of players out due to concussion. And White Bear Lake has one absence as well in the sophomore Owen Shatner. White Bear Lake looking to push forward again. Cross gets over the head of Gavin Hood, but it is picked up by the Bears on the far left side. White Bear Lake looking for the foul call. Instead, they're called for the handball. Number 11, Noah Watson, thought he was tripped up. And instead, Roseville will get it as Watson, again, I think made contact with his hands, which you cannot do if you're a position player. So White Bear Lake will take over again. Roseville clears. Pass from Ben Watson sailed over everybody, and Roseville will take over on the throw-in. You'll notice this, I haven't seen this often in high school fields, but they've got pods with mini nets to store loose balls, and the ball kids for this game, which include one of the girls players, are placing them in those pods to make things a little easier. We mentioned Taylor Gittens never playing a varsity game. Grew up in Hugo, went to Matamidi, was on JV, but sat out her senior season because of surgery to remove a bone tumor. She did get noticed on summer club teams though, and this is Colby Peterson hoping to get noticed on this corner kick. White Bear Lake trying to thread it upward. A lot of traffic. So far, both sides playing those corners short. We still have a long way to go though, so a bit premature to say that's how the set pieces will play out. Roseville with a flick. White Bear Lake catches up to it. That's Ben Belier. It is a throw-in for the Raiders. So they try to move the ball about, but can't sustain that possession for long. Cyrus Ludwig will toss it in. White Bear Lake started the season with a pair of draws against Centennial and Blaine, picked up their first win against Duluth East. Then added a couple more wins against Irondale and North St. Paul. Egan, the toughest foe they have faced. They will also play Minnetonka to close out the season October 5th on the road. They'll host Stillwater October 1st. That could be a game of note. Green Durham Hall, the early leaders in the conference. That game is October 3rd for the curious. If you're wondering how Taylor Gittens got this position, again, she was an assistant for the last couple of years, so a lot of familiarity with the players. And she specifically wanted to work with goalies. White Bear Lake looking for a coach who could do just that, and a couple years later, here she is again. Third head coach over the last 3 seasons. It has been a carousel, and I should remind you, at the high school level, at least here, it's not like coaching at the D1 or NFL levels, that is. Just about all the coaches have day jobs, as we await a White Bear Lake free kick following the foul. About 13 minutes have gone by, still waiting for our first goal. Still waiting for our first real scoring chance, actually, as Nate Asidu-Mensah fields that one. White Bear Lake working that left side. Save, and a corner coming. Good work by Wehrman, but also a fine piece of work on the part of Noah Watson. He snuck that ball underneath a Roseville defender. We'll take another look at this. Broke the ankles of Daniel Aviles Hernandez, and that wasn't going to stop Ben Watson. He just ran right through him to create that scoring chance. And we're going to have a corner kick on the right side. Ball went left. All right, I don't know how that works, but Gio Pesco-Solido will try to make this work. Again, White Bear Lake, this is the third corner kick. They played them short the first couple of times, and I do see this time Pesco-Solido tried to lace it through, and White Bear Lake will be hit with a foul as a Roseville player got sent to the turf. Talon, what she's most impressed with so far, the most players she has had, or the school has had in 15 years with regards to participation, tryouts and the like. Finding them was a little trickier than I'm used to because, as I've noted, the North Campus renovations are complete. You can host multiple games at once. For lower levels, they've got a couple of fields in place, and there's also another practice area over by the shot put and discus zones, where both teams were going over their last minute prep work. I'm used to waiting for them out on the pitch or along the track as they line up during a doubleheader, but that wasn't the case here. I had to go behind the bleachers to find them, but find them I did, and here we are. White Bear Lake controlling possession. Again, they have already taken some steps forward. Pesco Solido hoping to do the same. Passes back out. Shot deflected. Retrieving it is Parker Anderl. More work out of White Bear Lake. Still waiting for that first shot on goal. White Bear Lake has been in position or closer to it. You know this sport, sometimes it's riding it out, waiting for that opportunity to reveal itself. We remain scoreless. White Bear Lake working the tempo here. Now they flick it forward. Parker Anderl, can he catch up to it? Roseville redirects. Anderl will let it. I take that back. That was Cyrus Ludwig. Hard to tell the sixes from the fives up here. But Ludwig let that deflection stroll out of play to set up another set piece chance for Gio Pesco Solido. That was the closest call yet. But Ludwig bounced it wide right. White Bear Lake 3-1-3. Last year, we said they only won once, but they finished 1-7-5, so they found themselves in quite a few draws and got bounced in the quarterfinals. A couple of years ago, they finished 8-6-2, but again bounced in the section quarterfinals. So this is a team that would like to make a deeper run, and again, they've been stuck in a section with some high caliber competition last year. Stillwater, Woodbury, Eastridge, and Cretin-Durham Hall. They were all fierce competitors, and now you've got Two Rivers who could make a splash in 4-3A this year. Like I've said, this is a section where getting out of it is an accomplishment. Roseville trying to make the most out of their possession. Instead, they just send a glancing shot over to Orsello, who catches it without much difficulty, as we are past 20 minutes of play and still looking for that first big scoring chance. And if you like what you see on SCC, well, we'll do it again tomorrow with the other football. Onamedi and Hastings. Right now, Roseville would like to see this corner kick from Mohamed El Noor turn into something bigger. Roseville hasn't had a lot of opportunities yet. El Noor went for the far post, but it was deflected away by Asidou Mensah. A throw will be coming up for Alex Rankin. And we've seen this a lot out of boys games. They've got some distance. If you can get some folks who have considerable upper body strength, those throw-ins can work like corner kicks or free kicks. Stillwater Woodbury comes to mind there. Woodbury scored a pair of goals off of throw-ins. White Bear Lake with the takeaway. That's Ben Watson. He's had a few touches, but hasn't exerted the full extent of his influence yet. Two teams who may not be front runners in Class 3A, but this is a pivotal game nonetheless. Like we said, we're already at the midway point of the season, just about. We'll play games through the first week of October, and that's often done to get ahead of any chilly weather that comes in October.
Number 8, Damani Green.
Ryan Sturm, Damani Green, and Rafa Bastida Rickmeyer all sub in for White Bear Lake. Remember, substitutions are unlimited at this level. Foul called on Roseville as Bastida Rickmeyer was trying to field it. And this could be another significant play. Ben Watson will spot the free kick well within scoring range. You hear the official telling the players of Roseville to back up. As you know, you get the 10-yard halo, and defenders always try to sneak in an inch or two. Watson's kick into traffic. Roseville clears. So, no threat there. Roseville takes over. Rankin finds El Noor. El Noor trying to juke a defender. Cannot. And a good clearance by White Bear Lake. I believe that was Cyrus Ludwig. Who got the key clearance. It results in a Roseville throw-in, but if you can skirt the ball away from the end line, get it past the touch line and settle for the throw-in. As we've seen out of Roseville, they don't have that cannon of an arm like some teams do. As the two sides exchange possessions around midfield. Under 15 minutes left. We've had a couple of plays by the keepers on either side, but we're more or less still waiting. Waiting for that first big swing. That first big storyline will dictate pace, dictate flow. As we said, this is a pivotal point. We're at the midway part of the season. White Bear Lake should have a winnable game ahead of them on Saturday. They'll host South St. Paul. Minnetonka, I think, will be one of their toughest games remaining. But because it's a short regular season, it's not long before you get enough games to start factoring in QRF. Roseville gearing up for another throw-in after a quick sprint by Alejandro Ramos. Contact between White Bear Lake's Ben Balir and Mohamed El Noor. That will present Roseville with an ideal free kick chance. And El Noor looks like butted heads, not literally, but the knee of Ben Balir collided with El Noor, and I don't know about you, but if you take a shin to the head, that can sting for a bit. They play the free kick short, and El Noor's pass well over everybody, so no threat posed by the Roseville free kick in that sequence. Again, this is the new permanent home of White Bear Lake High School. No more North Campus, South Campus. They all share one space after being split for several decades. I think 50 years, about 40 or 50. It's been a long time since the two schools were one. Roseville. Boots a laser over the uprights, over the net, I should say, and through the uprights. A little too high, and no threat there for Thomas Orsello, but it was one of Roseville's best opportunities coming off of the right foot of Ramos. And that's what this game might come down to. We haven't seen either side break through all that much. So it might lead our two sets of contenders to become less selective about those scoring opportunities. You'll often hear if there's a chance to score from deep, take it. You never know what might happen. But Roseville's tenacity going up a notch in the later stages of this first half. White Bear Lake, we'll see that set, that touch come to an end. On an errant pass, Roseville will throw it in. Under 10 to play. White Bear Lake fielding it. That was Ben Watson. His shot bounces wide left. White Bear Lake. Oh, Watson a little frustrated. They had the takeaway and the pass was a little offline, enough to prevent White Bear Lake from marching downfield in stride. They'll have to try again on the throw-in. You may be used to this already. We've had a couple of soccer games here. We'll have our first football game here next Friday. The stadium's construction is completed. Last year we made a few trips, but the stadium was only half complete. But the capacity is considerably larger than their field at what is now Mariner Middle School. So we can get a few thousand friends here, and we just might as the season moves along. Football has a way of drawing out the crowds on Friday nights. White Bear Lake trying to draw themselves into the attacking third. Roseville doing a good job sealing that off as of late. Watson did have that shot attempt a few minutes ago, but overall, a stalemate between our Suburban East rivals. Again, Roseville has not lost a game. They get the through ball into Elnor, trying to evade his defender one more time. Having a difficult time doing so. Nice play by White Bear Lake's Ben Belier. Elnor, well, it will be a throw-in for Elnor, but still Belier with another fine job preventing a corner kick chance. Roseville has had 2, White Bear Lake with 4. The conversion rate of corner kicks, not exactly high, but they always look at those set pieces as major chances to turn the tide, and that has happened on a few occasions. You just never know, and that's the beauty and the beast of it. Ball strolls out of bounds again. Free kick coming with less than 5 minutes to play for Colby Peterson. This one might be outside of scoring range, but we'll see. Sends it into the scrum, where it's sent back out. Flag went up, ball went through the touch line. So Latif Showamimo won't be able to continue that attack. I don't fault him though for going. Again, play until you hear the whistle. But you could see from our angle as well that the ball did leave the field of play. Again, still waiting. There is Taylon Giddens. Holding an historic role as head coach. We've seen a lot of women coach girls and women's teams, but again, a rarity in any sport for women to coach men's teams or boys' teams. I've seen co-head coaches, and I've seen women as assistant coaches as well. Opportunities are growing, but boys sports, one of the last holdouts, and I don't mean that as a sign of sexism or chauvinism. As White Bear Lake puts the ball over to Werman, who makes the catch. Werman, just a couple of saves unofficially. Actually, it's been a smooth sailing for the keepers when it comes to shot attempts. Thomas Orsello hasn't faced any major threats. The last woman I can think of who coached a men's team, until recently anyway, was Tamara Moore, who coached Mesabi Range Community College men's basketball and had to step down from that position after accepting a job as a scout for the NBA's Dallas Mavericks. It will be interesting to see how these opportunities unfold and evolve for women, whether it's coaching men's sports or finding other roles that typically just waiting to see where that ball was going. Roles that typically don't see a lot of female representation. And men's sports is that last holdout. We've seen women become officials in men's sports. We've seen women taking assistant coaching jobs in the NFL and other sports. I remember there was a good deal of publicity a few years ago in Super Bowl 55, I think.
1 minute remaining in the half. 1 minute.
Under a minute to go. Of course, making history is one thing. How you capitalize on that moment is what can make or break you. And even though we're not going to be discussing legacies like we do at the professional level, that's going to be a foul on the push by Ben Watson.
30 seconds.
Common foul. A clock stoppage was not signaled. But Roseville will get a chance. Rankin to hook up with a teammate on the free kick.
9, 8,
The ball will roll out of play. Roseville, they'll hurry to throw it in.
4,
Maybe get one more chance at the net, and that won't happen. So the first half comes to a close, and not a whole lot to speak of. And what has been a defensive stalemate between two Suburban East rivals trying to move their way up in the conference and in section positioning. You're watching live coverage of high school boys soccer on SCC White Bear Lake and Roseville, 0-0 at the break.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. Beating in rhythm to the world you've created. But every time you drive after drinking, the music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. Don't drive buzzed.
We said we'd never give in to a meltdown.
Okay.
And we'd never babysit with a screen. We said we'd never let the toys take over.
Mariella.
Never leave the house looking, well, and never let them out of our sight. Tyler, come here. Cars get hot fast, and kids can be at risk. Before you leave the car, always stop, look, lock.
Life's daily battles are not meant to be fought alone.
We're not powerless, so long as we don't lose sight of what's important.
Don't be afraid to seize that moment to talk to your friends.
Cloud, you okay?
Because checking in on a friend can create a safe space.
The first step on our new journey. You coming?
Reach out to a friend about their mental health. Seize the awkward. It's totally worth it.
Ethan was shot in the head in his best friend's house with an unsecured gun. The father, the gun owner, he stored his 3 guns and bullets in a shoebox. That has to be the most horrific experience that a human could ever have.
I debate all day. It's what I do. But there are some things that are undebatable, like your mental health, my own mental health. I was in a dark place when my brother passed away in a car accident. I've never been more devastated than the day I lost my mom. I was depressed, miserable, in ways I never imagined. I reached out, and my sisters came, my pastor, my therapist. They helped me get through it. I found that the more I spoke up, the healthier my mind became. The chaos that was in me began to subside. I was more focused, clear. When you love your mind, you can go so much further. It's not up for debate. Find mental health resources at loveyourmindtoday.org.
Dusk has turned to night here at White Bear Lake, where these two teams are hoping to bring light in a scoreless draw thus far. High school boys soccer on SCC Sports. Again, a defensive stalemate, so not a ton of highlights between the two. We did have a couple of shots on goal and a few other plays of note. We'll go through them here. That was one of the few moments where Thomas Orsello got to showcase his work, and that was one of the closest calls we had. And then you see that corner kick. Cyrus Ludwig, I think, was trying to either play it or get the header. He was a bit late. And as we look again on the White Bear Lake side, they had a couple of close calls. Ben Watson with a shot that went wide left. Officially, not a whole lot in terms of shots on goal. It's been smooth sailing for Werman and Orsello. A couple of fouls as well, but overall a clean game. No yellow cards, not much of anything. We'll see if those trends persist or if someone can break through and pick up a win. White Bear Lake would love to add another victory in a season where they're looking to get back on top. And Roseville trying to make it back-to-back wins on their side. Here's a look at upcoming games. We mentioned White Bear Lake. On Saturday, they'll have a weekend affair with South St. Paul, East Ridge. They're a team that can be a force. Park of Cottage Grove coming off that shutout loss to Roseville. The Minnetonka game, that one will be key for section and possibly state tournament positioning should White Bear Lake get that far. But again, they are in a brutal section. Stillwater, Woodbury, they have to play those teams. East Ridge, Cretin-Durham Hall. There are a lot of viable contenders in that group. For Roseville, they'll take on an unbeaten in Osseo on Saturday. Other non-conference games include St. Thomas Academy, and then the rest, as you see, are Suburban East foes. Roseville also has to take on Stillwater and Woodbury. Cretin-Durham Hall again leading. It's still early, but it is not an easy series of tests, no matter who you play in the Suburban East. We'll be back in a couple of minutes for the second half, and we'll see if someone can break through this scoreless stalemate. You're watching high school boys soccer on SCC Sports.
We said we'd never give in to a meltdown. We'd never babysit with a screen. We said we'd never let the toys take over.
Mariella.
Never leave the house looking, well, and never let them out of our sight.
Unstoppable force meets immovable objects.
Skylar, come here. Cars get hot fast, and kids can be at risk. Before you leave the car, always stop, look, lock.
I debate all day. It's what I do. But there are some things that are undebatable, like your mental health. My own mental health. I was in a dark place when my brother passed away in a car accident. I've never been more devastated than the day I lost my mom. I was depressed, miserable, in ways I never imagined. I reached out, and my sisters came, my pastor, my therapist. They helped me get through it. I found that the more I spoke up, the healthier my mind became. The chaos that was in me began to subside. I was more focused, clear. When you love your mind, you can go so much further. It's not up for debate. Find mental health resources at loveyourmindtoday.org.
See that cute little dog in the pet store window? Chances are it came from a puppy mill, a breeding facility that forces caged, neglected, and often sick dogs to churn out puppy after puppy to be sold for profit. Meanwhile, millions of wonderful, healthy pets end up in animal shelters. But with one simple choice, you can help, just by deciding to adopt instead of purchase your next pet. Not only are you saving a life, you're taking a stand against puppy mills. Visit bestfriends.org to learn more.
The stalemate, looking for a resolution. We will see if someone can break through as we continue live coverage of high school boys soccer on SCC Sports. Second half will start momentarily here at White Bear Lake High School. White Bear Lake 3-1-3, Roseville picking up their first win of the year earlier this week. Would love to make it back-to-back. They sit at 1-4-2. There's Noah Watson, the sophomore. We've seen a lot of action, but like we said, not a whole lot of activity of note between the two teams. We'll see if that changes here in the second half. There's Ben Watson, who has the 5 goals. The only White Bear Lake player who has more than one at this point in the year. The second half is underway. And a reminder, this has been in place now for a couple of years, but we do not have any extra time, overtime in regular season play. So if this game were to end in a draw at the conclusion of regulation, it would go down as such. So that rule mirroring USA Cup FIFA rules a little more closely. Of course, in high school, we have the clock that counts down. When you play club soccer, as I'm guessing a lot of these athletes do, they play with FIFA rules. Ben Watson, by the way, did not score. Of course, nobody scored in the scoreless draw with Mounds View, so I guess it goes without saying. But was responsible for both goals in the win over North St. Paul. The first time he has scored multiple goals this season. Roseville looking to get the through ball into number 5, Miguel Mancia Montoya, and White Bear Lake sprinting downfield again for the clearance. That has been an area where they have excelled, stopping Roseville from getting those breakaway chances. It will result in a corner kick, though. We'll see what Mohamed El Noor can do with it, as Asidou Mensah stop that through ball from turning into a threat. But we know those corners can also transform into breakthrough chances. Not much there on that threat. And as we wait for the big one to unfold, as Montoya is called offside, ahead of his defender. We'll remind you that we're back at it tomorrow. In fact, you'll be seeing us quite a bit on SEC, and you'll be hearing my voice over the next couple of weeks. Tomorrow, Matabidi Hastings football. We've got a soccer doubleheader for you on Tuesday of next week, and then next Friday we are back here at White Bear Lake for some high school football. You can watch on SEC if you live in any of the corresponding cities, and you can also watch online on our YouTube channel. And wherever you are, we're glad you are spending part of your evening with us. This game has served as an embodiment of the tagline for Seinfeld, a whole lot of nothing. That really is how this game could be summarized. We've had a few moments here and there. Roseville trying to make something happen, and again, Mancia Montoya called offside. He was just ahead of his defender. Otherwise, I think he would have had an astute opportunity awaiting him. Keep your eyes on number 5. If he can receive one of those through balls onside, that might be the difference maker, as White Bear Lake will get the corner. Colby Peterson spotting it quick. Usually that means either the team is set or they see something that could be exploited. A notorious example I bring up is the state tournament back in 2018. Spencer Scott of Stillwater spotting up a free kick and firing away to get the goal against St. Paul Central. Corner kicks a little different than free kicks, but White Bear Lake squirts one, and I think Asidu Mensah was looking to connect with a teammate. Instead, the ball screeches past them and goes into Werman's hands without much problem, without much issue. And that's the extent so far. Werman, I think, does have one save and then a couple of catches. How you categorize saves, I think, maybe up to your definition for the student managers or other statisticians. Foul leading to a free kick. Chance Vang tumbling on the turf. White Bear Lake taking the deep shot with that through ball. Roseville couldn't catch the ball in time, and a frustrated Alejandro Ramos tried to keep it from moving past. Corner kick number 6 for White Bear Lake. They'll go to the backside. Pesco Solido typically takes them from the right side. It turns into a breakaway chance for Roseville. And Sia Montoya won't receive the pass this time, but Roseville not done yet. They will earn a throw-in, and they waste no time putting that ball in play. We're seeing a lot more corner kicks. Another one from Mohamed El Noor. That's the 4th for Roseville. They had 2 in the first half. So we're seeing that element of the attacking game spruce up. And like we said, with set pieces, you just never know. Even though the conversion rate not exactly high in this sport, we often look at free kicks, corner kicks as prime instances for the taking. Ben Belier. Another exchange of touches. And another throw-in for Roseville. It's Leo Shrestha who put it in play.
Hello, microphone.
Hello to you, young man of mysterious origin. That might be a candidate for play of the game, moment of the game, the way this match has unfolded. And this isn't an indictment of the players or to suggest that they're punching above their pay grade. These two are just doing a fantastic job canceling each other out. We're not seeing goalies having to fend off any big scares. You're seeing a Roseville team that has had trouble finishing in the clutch, but playing much like their record and their performances suggest. Again, they haven't had any bad losses all season. They've just been on the short end of a lot of games. And White Bear Lake seeking a rejuvenation, taking some steps in that direction after going 1-7-5 last year. And that is another factor in this sport that is unique compared to basketball or football or volleyball, where games cannot end in ties. You get that a lot in this sport. So White Bear Lake, yes, they had the 1 win, but they had 5 draws, 5 ties. So it does impact things a bit. And we talk about that in USA Cup and other tournaments, including the Olympics, which were won by the U.S. women's national team on the women's side. White Bear Lake will make a pair of substitutions. Look like Rafa Bastina Rickmeyer, one of them again. I've mentioned this in my time calling soccer. You never know when a moment could turn into the moment. There won't be a moment there as the ball rolled away from Isidro Mensah before he could catch up to it. And as you know, when it comes to turf fields, balls carry. They certainly carry a lot more than they would on grass. Pesco Solido. The short dump to Watson, back to Pesco Solido. Over to Isidro Mensah. And we'll have another goal kick for Roseville. A microcosm of this game. We've seen Roseville, White Bear Lake get into the attacking third. White Bear Lake had the early edge in possession time, but really it's you go this way, I go that way, and a whole lot to speak of. Other side able to line up from close range. Seen a couple of deep boots. This I thought might be one of those chances, but White Bear Lake able to intervene and knock it away from Elnor, but Roseville playing that corner kick quick, and so is Asidu Mensah. Tackle. Roseville looking for the foul. Rankin in particular, he's the one who went down. We play on. White Bear Lake, that was a play of significance. What influence it might have in the outcome, we shall see, but that was a big defensive stop. White Bear Lake gets it. Can they get the pass in? Not cleanly enough. And this is what we're talking about. Roseville with a deep ball. Catching up to it. And Sia Montoya, but only for a moment. Takeaway by Elnor. This could be the chance Roseville was looking for. Once again, White Bear Lake staying in front. Now we're seeing a little beating and banging, as they say in racing. Noah Watson and Elnor in a battle of wits, and Noah Watson able to keep Elnor from a clear look. Defense alone won't win you games in this sport, at least not in the regular season, but it's gone a long way for White Bear Lake. Roseville was another flirtation with disaster, but White Bear Lake able to set, working along the right side. Shoamimo. White Bear Lake trying to center it. Ludwig fires, scores!
Scoring for your Bears, number 6, Cyrus Ludwig.
Cyrus Ludwig in the 56th minute breaks the stalemate. And as you saw in the replay, we'll take another look here before play resumes. Well, okay, I thought we were going to get a second angle of that, but one of the Roseville defenders was trying to clear a pass, headed away, and instead booted it right to Ludwig, who was open on the backside. And given the flow of this game, Ludwig not wasting that opportunity at all. He scores his second goal of the year. Sometimes those are the best chances to score. That's happened on a couple of occasions with the soccer games that I've called, where a player gets left behind or undetected on a clearance attempt. White Bear Lake trying to get on the move again. Then Watson collects the through ball after a brief tussle. Now he'll try the cross. Little too much on that one. Cyrus Ludwig, the senior, scored his first goal against Duluth East. He now has his second, and it could be a crucial one. I'm never one to say, oh, you could see that coming, because with this sport, you never know when a moment could be the moment. But Roseville was showing some chinks in that proverbial armor in the lead up to that Ludwig goal. There was a clearance attempt that went awry. The header went to Ludwig, and nobody was there to cover for him. We're going to have a foul on White Bear Lake. And the ref's going into his pocket to issue a yellow to Nate Asidu-Mensah for the tackle against Alejandro Ramos. So a yellow in the 58th minute. And looking at the tail end of that, Asidu-Mensah appears to wrap around Ramos for a moment. That sent him down. Ramos, White Bear Lake knocks it away, but it will lead to the 6th corner for Roseville and the 4th. In this half. Elnor getting a lot of work over there. Dribbles this one, keeps it short. Elnor. Another clearance for White Bear Lake, and they'll get a goal kick this time. That was Cyrus Ludwig. I was saying earlier, defense alone can't win you games in a sport like this, but it can certainly go a long way to preserving them. Ludwig will take a breather.
Entering the game for your Bears, number 24, Nate Asidu-Mensah.
And Asidu-Mensah will return. And a reminder, if you're new to the sport, if you get a yellow card, you do have to sub out, leave the playing, or go to the bench, not leave the playing area. You don't have to leave the field. You do have to go to the bench and wait to return after a time. That's how they do it. Still 20 minutes to go, and Roseville may have something up their sleeves, trying to make something happen here. Another tie-up between Parker Anderl and Elnor. Roseville, I wouldn't be surprised if they feel a little salty. That is not to imply that the calls aren't going their way or that they're getting a broad deal. They've just been on the receiving end of some tough plays. In a game that they have hung around, they have fared well. No major slip-ups outside of that header attempt that led to the Ludwig score. And it's corner kick time again for White Bear Lake. We'll see Colby Peterson take this one. White Bear Lake trying a few different options here with these set pieces. Peterson, that's a deep ball in the far post, and we'll do this again. Corner kick number 8. If you've been keeping track like the truck has, this has been a busy second half, 4 set pieces. Pesco Solido will take another turn. White Bear Lake, oh! Uh-oh. There was the tackle, and then a bit of extracurricular, the push off on number 10. And the official having a word with him. Alejandro Ramos and Colby Peterson, I believe. We'll take another look at this. No, that was Watson. Ramos, I'm thinking, took exception. Watson hit him from behind. I don't know if I don't think that was intentional. They were just making a play for the ball, at least from our vantage point. But Ramos, going back to Roseville, maybe getting a little salty, frustrated about some of the physicality here, letting that frustration crescendo a bit, and Ramos with the push off on Watson. Ben, for his part, just shrugged it off, and that's really all you can do. You don't want to escalate the situation. Nobody was carded. The official having a word with Ramos. And in a sense, I think Alejandro caught a break there, because a lot of officials would frown upon such an act. A lot of folks around, and it happens. We all get a little angry. We all get a little mad. Well, most of us. The folks in the truck, probably cool cats who never flinch, never unfurl. Irritable emotions. Now, we've all been there, where you get hit, you get bumped, and you just want to take your anger out on somebody, and sometimes it leads you to do some silly things that you normally wouldn't do. But again, Ramos was not carded. He did get a talking to from the referee, but that was it. 15 minutes, 23 seconds to go. White Bear Lake still up 1-0 on the goal from Cyrus Ludwig in the 56th minute. And I think one reason you didn't see any cards, Ramos had the push off, but again, Ben Watson did not engage him in any way, just let it go, and that was the end of that. I think it goes without saying that emotions, actions, feelings can ratchet up in intensity, in particular with boys soccer. I did Stillwater Woodbury last week. We had multiple yellow cards. Watson got a little tangled up on the spin move. That might have altered his trajectory a bit, but White Bear Lake taking another shot attempt nonetheless. In a game that so far has amounted to one crazy bounce. Soccer and hockey shared that commonality. One awkward hop, header, bounce, you name it, can change the course of a game. Can Roseville keep it together? They still have a chance to at least get a draw out of this, if not a win. Noah Watson will come in for Colby Peterson.
Number 11, Noah Watson.
As number 27, Ben Molier. Threw it in for the Bears. Pesco Salido looking to dodge traffic and You heard the official, I believe, yell, the referee, white throw. Got those microphones at the ends of the field, and you heard him say has to go over your head on the throw-in. So this will turn the page, and now White Bear Lake will take over on the throw-in. You heard the official say it has to go over your head on those throw-ins. White Bear Lake, ooh, thought they had something for a second. Bastida Rickmeyer certainly did. They do get a roller off to Werman, who scoops it up, but White Bear Lake, I'd say with a stronger second half. We haven't seen Roseville mount a sustained attack in the second half, at least not yet. They came close a couple of times, got called offside. As according to the tally, the truck tally in the truck, White Bear Lake 5 shots on goal, Roseville with none. It's a bit like volleyball. I don't know exactly what constitutes a shot on goal. I'll say this much, in the second half, we haven't seen any out of Roseville. White Bear Lake with a couple of chances, including the difference maker in Cyrus Ludwig, scored in the 56th minute. And if that is enough for White Bear Lake, it would mark their 3rd victory in the last 4 games. Again, only 1 defeat, and that came against Egan, the number 3 team in the state, a 2-0 defeat there. White Bear Lake clears. We'll see how they approach the final stage of the second half as we near the 10-minute mark. An insurance goal, of course, would be gladly welcomed, but you don't need it. You just got to win by 1, no matter the sport. Oh, okay, not quite. Volleyball and tennis, you got to win by 2, but that's beside the point. I would not want to think about the implications if you had to do that in soccer, but I will say Roseville thinking about how they can punch through in this second half. We'll have to try again here as we are under 10 minutes to play. White Bear Lake trying to find some consistency. Again, 3rd different head coach in the last 3 years, leading to Talon Gittins taking the job. Like we said, has coached here as an assistant over the last couple of years and teaches at White Bear Lake. Grew up in Hugo, went to Matamidi, so she knows this neck of the woods up, down, and around. But being an assistant is one thing. Being the head coach adds an extra degree of responsibility. But for someone like Talon Gittins, who didn't get the showcase, at least at the high school level, remember, never played a varsity game, played JV, and then had to miss her entire senior year. To remove a bone tumor.
Now entering the game for your Bears, number 8, Damani Green.
Damani Green checking in. Roseville. Trying to stage one of those counters. Didn't work out, but if they've got something within them, it has to come soon here as the clock winds down. not in panic mode yet. But I suspect the urgency will rise. Remember, earlier in the second half, they had a couple of on-man rushes taken away by a pair of offside calls. And Sia Montoya got a little too far ahead of his defender. It can be a frustrating call when you're on the receiving end of it, but them's the rules, as the saying goes. And that's the first ball of any kind to go Orsello's way in the second half, but it wasn't much of a ball on the part of Elnor. Orsello able to catch up to it. But another throw-in awaits the Raiders. .45, Elnor trying to outrun, fires, and Orsello dives on it. You never know when it's your time to come up clutch, and Orsello with a big save, by far the biggest of this game, and not just because of the time remaining, but that was the best scoring chance we've seen all night out of Roseville. Orsello was ready. Elnor was able to sneak ahead of his coverage. Now how does White Bear Lake handle this? They still have 5 minutes to go, and a reminder, this was put in place a couple of years ago. At the 5-minute mark, if the team in front makes a substitution, and you'll see it now, as White Bear Lake puts in Cyrus Ludwig and Colby Peterson. If the team in front, this is an NFHS rule, makes a substitution with under 5 minutes to play, as long as it's not beyond the mercy rule threshold, the clock will stop. And the NFHS put that rule in place to prevent teams from manipulating the time, manipulating the clock in their favor, since in this sport the clock doesn't stop unless the official signals the scoreboard operator to do so. But this is an ideal circumstance for White Bear Lake nonetheless. They've got the ball on the attacking third, at least for a moment. If you can keep it there, as White Bear Lake was attempting to do, you can eat up a lot of time. Instead, Roseville looking to find Mencia Montoya again. Another corner. A busy second half of set pieces. Elnor thought he was going to get the call up. Alex Rankin will spot it. Sends it in. White Bear Lake clears. For the moment. Pesco Solido. That could be a huge takeaway for the Bears. Again, just a 1-goal lead. They say 2-goal leads are the most dangerous. I don't know about that, but 1 goal, ooh. Ben Watson nearly caught off guard. Was trying to field the throw-in, and once the throw-in's made, the ball's back in play. Elnor nearly pounced on him from behind. Instead, White Bear Lake will hang on Again, the longer they can keep the ball in the attacking third, the less time Roseville will have to make a move. Pesco Salido. Shot deflected. Everyone getting after it. And it's ruled a corner for White Bear Lake. I suspect they will not be in a hurry. As you see the time, both on our scorebook and on the scoreboard on the left side. We've got the video board and the regular scoreboard. Well, White Bear Lake does put it in play. I suppose you can't stall. I thought they might trot a little more though, but perhaps White Bear Lake feeling inspired considering how strong their attacking game has been in the second half. Now they have to keep it away. Play, keep away. Who knows if Mancia Montoya was onside, what he could have done with it on a couple of balls he attempted to collect. White Bear Lake doing exactly what they need to. Getting the ball into the attacking third. They work their way into a goal kick with under a minute to play. Thomas Orsello with that humongous save against Elnor. That goal kick goes out of play, but time is almost up. White Bear Lake, they just have to clear, keep it up.
30 seconds.
Don't let Roseville put anything together, and this throw in here will take up even more time. 20 seconds now. Rankin was able to get into the position. Handball was called, and that will do it.
10 seconds. 9.
White Bear Lake
7.
with
6,
a textbook example
4,
of holding serve.
3, 2,
They cash in
1.
on one of those surprising gifts from Cyrus Ludwig, and they'll cash in their third victory out of the last 4 games. 1-0 the final to go to 4-1-3. An excellent defensive showcase in the final few minutes, keeping Roseville from putting the ball anywhere in scoring position. And let's not forget about that save by Thomas Orsello late that ensured White Bear Lake would get out of here with the win. So Cyrus Ludwig with his second goal of the year in the 56th minute, and that is the difference in our score. 1-0 the final. It was an entertaining second half, and after a first half that was ho-hum, not a whole lot to speak of. Well, we'll go through those again. It really was a case of waiting for something. The first half almost devoid of highlights. He had a couple of moments here and there, but overall, not too emotional of a game, not too heated of one, just one yellow card. There were a couple of collisions throughout as we make our way through. Well, certainly a highlight of the game, watching the ball go right by the camera. And this was the big play. You see the header that was misplayed. Cyrus Ludwig able to field gather, and that was another close call on Watson, and then the push off by Ramos. No yellows, no cards of any kind, and this is the save of the game from Elnor. Thomas Orsello making the grab against him to ensure White Bear Lake could get the win. Like we said, we are back here tomorrow. In fact, we're going to have a couple of Hastings Matamidi games for you, starting with football tomorrow, 7 o'clock at George Smith Field in Matamidi. Then we're back at Matamidi on Tuesday for a doubleheader with Hastings. A week from tomorrow, we are back at White Bear Lake for Forest Lake and White Bear Lake High School football. I'll be with you for all of those games. SCC will be with you for all of those games. And we certainly hope you will spend part of your evenings with us over the next week or so as we continue the month of September. So with that, White Bear Lake knocks off Roseville 1-0 for their third win out of their last 4 games. For our entire crew, this is Mike Beaton reminding you to help control the pet population. Have your pets spayed or neutered. Goodbye, everybody.